The following is a presentation of the Force Center podcast feed.
From the center of the galaxy, this is the Force Center podcast feed, and this particular episode is the Mandalorian Report.
Oh, I don't even have sounds. I just have this.
The music of excitement. That is what you are hearing today, and it's exciting to me to guess which scene or moment made you make that noise, or if it was multiple scenes that made you go, oh, ho, ho, ho.
I'll say multiple. One big one, and I'm talking about the baby birds.
Oh, yeah. The baby birds were pretty great, making a triumphant return. No, that was Ahmed Best, but the baby raptors also had a shocking appearance. We are extremely excited to talk about this episode of The Mandalorian. I'm Joseph Scrimshaw, the person making wonderful mouth noises that you can set to music if you want and make the music is Ken Napzok. Ken, I am thrilled to talk about this episode. We do want to do a quick plug. We want to let people know about our Patreon. It is at patreon.com/forcecenter. We're putting a lot of work into it. There are a lot of different things there that you can get access to, including our Discord. If you're excited to talk about The Mandalorian and looking for other Star Wars fans, our Discord is a great place to share your thoughts, feelings, and your own oh-ho-ho-ho noises right there on Discord. We're also experimenting with something called Other Center, where we talk about things that are related to Star Wars or maybe just related to our hearts. Right now, we're talking about Indiana Jones. We have released the first episode of Indiana Jones in the Perilous podcast. That is available now. So if you're interested in any of that, go check it out at patreon.com/forcecenter. All right, Ken, are you ready for The Mandalorian?
I am very ready for this episode. Oh, can't wait.
We are talking about Chapter 20. This is in Season 3, Episode 4, Chapter 20. The Foundling, written by Jon Favreau and Dave Filoni, directed by Carl Weathers. About 28 minutes of actual storytelling once you strip all the credits away. But to me, at least, it felt very full and satisfying. Ken, did you look at the length of the episode this week, or did you hide it from your eyes as you hit play?
I did see it, and there was, I got to admit, sometimes a little bit of like a, oh good, I'll actually get to sleep tonight. Okay, that's good. So I don't mind the little shorter episodes every now and then, but I did know going in.
Yeah, I have such a weird emotional relationship with the length of the episode, and I have gotten to the point where I get distracted if I don't look. So I just give it a quick glance. Last week was a real hard week where I had to take my wife to the airport in the middle of the night. So I was like, 58 minutes. Oh, boy. Okay, good. Mm-hmm. And this week I was like, oh, I'm really ready. I really need some great Star Wars. And when I saw the time, I was like, no, oh, boy, I wish there was more. And then I was so delighted that the episode felt so absolutely full and complete. And it had, to me, everything it needed, you know? And no extra meat on the bone, and it was perfect. We always like talking about our prep. Did you have the midnight experience? What was your experience of sitting down to watch this 28 minutes of The Foundling?
Yeah, the road to this episode definitely highlights how wonderful this episode was, and maybe something I needed. I think a lot of Star Wars fans needed, or maybe just people needed. Long day, not even the greatest day. We had some fun. We did some bulk taping of figure fights, and we can't wait to share those episodes with y'all. But I had kind of a running late from my office to the living room, plopped down alone on the couch. Grace hasn't been able to watch the last couple of weeks. And just had that kind of like, and then that's why I saw the time. I was like, okay, this is going to be okay. I'll be on this couch and I can get to bed. I'm really exhausted. And then just, the moment it starts, and not even knowing any big reveals or anything, just like, okay, we're here, we're fine. And I love that vibe. And then it just all kind of pays off when that thing happens. The thing happens we're talking about. It was the medicine, the balm for the wound at the end of the day.
Yeah, no, I think we're in similar places as you and I know. We chatted off air. Mm-hmm. I had a great fun recording figure fights yesterday. But other than that, is just a bad, frustrating day. I had to make a hard choice, and it was just one of those days where I was like, I know nothing major in life is wrong, but it feels like everything is horrible. And I know that's just the feeling today, and I will get past it, but I have to just sit in it. Like I said, figure fights recording was great. It was a blessing in the middle of the day, but it was like that. Ooh, the darkness was there. Then it went away for recording, and then it came back. And then I was like, oh, please go away for the Mandalorian. I'd really like that. And this episode was really interesting because the wonderful Carl Weathers just tweeted out like, hey, everybody, check out the Foundling. So just like totally revealed the title, which did sort of indicate that it was going to get back to the ways of Mandalore, probably Grogu. And then I believe Hal Hickel tweeted like one of the great effects people that we got to meet in the behind the scenes things, tweeted out something like, yeah, looking forward to this one, #Grogu. So I was like, all right. I normally get out my various action figures to sit and watch with me. So I got out a Grogu. I got out an Ahsoka just in case she showed up.
Yeah.
And a little whiskey, but mostly a couple Grogus. And I was really excited to watch. And then I try to keep my reactions somewhat quiet because my wife usually goes to bed and doesn't watch with me until the next day. And I just forgot when Grogu won the tournament, I applauded, and I didn't, my brain didn't tell my hand to do it. You know, it was one of those like, it's after midnight alone in my home and I'm applauding.
Yeah.
Because it just came out of me organically.
Yeah. I love that feeling. I love that. No, well, glad we're in the same spot. We started in the same spot and ended in a good spot.
Exactly. So obviously, I think it's clear that I enjoyed the episode a lot. What was your overall reaction? Do you love it? Did you just like it? Was there a part of it that you struggled with at all? Where'd you go?
Well, you know what's funny? All three. To explain. Love it. And we are going to talk about Keller and Beck. We don't want to bury the lead. We're going to get to it, but there's so much to that, both in the story and around the story, just Star Wars fandom, obviously. We're going to get to that, breaking it down. We're going to go beat by beat because, man, I think we all had similar reactions. But so I love that. And then I like what was going on, but I was struggling up to that point of just not that what's the show doing? What's the show about? But just like, okay, I'm historically, I shouldn't even, own this. I haven't been a big fan of Mandos or Mandalorians as a Star Wars fan, right? Like going back, we're talking Legends. I love the Clone Wars stuff. I love the characters, Satine, Bo-Katan, Prime Minister, oh my God, Corky even. Like I love all that stuff. But it's not like a top five, I'm thinking of Star Wars, I'm going to think about going to Mandalore, right? It just hasn't been for a long time. So when it was started on what I'm calling Dinosaur Attack River, and they're there, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, I wanted to go other spots, but we're here. I knew Grogu was going to be featured heavily. Rosario Dawson had tweeted something out. Dave Filoni's co-writing. I'm like, I thought Sabine and Ahsoka were going to show up with a picnic basket or something. My mind was in that spot. So all three of those things, love it, like it, struggle, were kind of in my head until the color and stuff. But then revisiting the episode, this is such a beautiful episode, and it was so well. And you got Carl Weathers directing this. And he's proven he's so good with action, as he should be. He's Action Jackson, people. He knows this stuff. And it just, I really love this episode. It's a sweet, sweet poem about so many wonderful things about foundlings and generational change and teaching and mentoring and protecting. Oh, it's so beautiful.
Yeah, it was just a beautiful episode that had me from the beginning. The Keller and Beck reveal what it means for the use of the character Keller and Beck, the getting into the real life history of Ahmed Best, which we will talk about. That stuff was powerful and moving, and I think dovetailed well with the ideas in the episode. But I just, from deep analytical levels to just what do I want to feel when I watch a Star Wars as a fan, it just fired on every cylinder for me. The first note I wrote down was just hot damn. Hot damn. This is one of my favorite episodes of The Mandalorian. And I think it's because it combines so many things that I love in Star Wars. I love the high fantasy, the kind of mix of fantasy and pulp where you can't ignore that side of Star Wars. You can't ignore that it is mythic ideas mashed up with that monster's cool. That is in the beating heart of Star Wars. I love things like Andor. I loved last week's episodes that got a little bit more into the political realities and in that side of Star Wars. But I think I'll always be drawn to that. Like, wow, I can't believe what I'm seeing on screen, high fantasy, pulpy stuff. So it was a mix of that and then just so much great character development and emotion. I felt multiple different emotions. It was rewarding as a Star Wars fan to see something that was building on existing lore and stories, both outside of, this show, The Mandalorian, lots of things that I was, tapping into, from Jedi Temple Challenge to the prequels to all this lore. But we're in season 3, season 3.5, if you count Book of Boba Fett as part of the Mandoverse, which I do, and the show is so building on its own lore. We've now got to the point where this episode is building on Revenge of the Sith with Grogu's experiences, but it's also building like hugely on scenes from Chapter 3, The Sin, here in Chapter 20. So the Mandalorian is feeding off of its own lore in a good way. And I know sometimes people say that as a criticism of it now, Star Wars is talking to itself. But to me, it's like this story is becoming epic. It is growing, and characters are going vast, far different places from where they started. So that was a part of it too, of feeling like just drenched in lore in a good way. Yeah. Also, one of the things that I would say makes it my favorite episode of The Mandalorian is we've both talked about how Jon Favreau has a very specific style, sometimes kind of slice of life, everything from swingers to this is just what Boba Fett thinks about in the bath. This is how young people in LA celebrated Frank Sinatra's birthday in 1996. It's just slice of life, man. And I always do like that style, but sometimes there is a little, like, how do you balance the forward movement with that? This episode I thought was a perfect mix of adventure of the week with huge amounts of forward movement. It didn't just hint at ideas. It got into the heart of, let's look at what the way is of the Children of the Watch. Let's draw comparisons between the Jedi and the Mandalorians. Let's really make choices and really move forward. I felt that in this episode.
Very much so. Very much so. I think once it picks up and goes, it's smooth. And I like what you're saying about how, it's connecting to its own stuff. It's a reminder of time. Time moving so fast. There's just this wonderful Mando world, and it should inform the episodes and the direction of the show. And I think I love that. And I think this is one of those episodes where it just was like they're very clearly saying. Obviously, we talked about it the last couple weeks, but this is not just Din and Grogu's journey anymore. And we're exploring so many other aspects of what we've already learned so far. So I'm with you on that.
Yeah. I think one of the things that it's exploring so well in building on is ideas of change. And this episode sort of focused on the growth and evolution of children and their relationship with parents. So it was still an idea of change that's been running through this season, and amazing for us to see Din this is a completely different Din, right? This is the first time we've seen Din where, he has a side quest of rescue the kid, but he's just where he wants to be, doing what he wants to do. That's exciting all by itself, of seeing Din in this place in this time.
This will sound like a criticism. It's not. It's definitely, you could tweet it out and get some rage clicks. I for a second forgot Din was on the mission, right? And I really mean that in a good way. In what you're talking about, I like where he is, and I like where I think he likes where he is right now. And there's still big answers, big questions. That's Darksaber's probably still hanging on his belt, whatever else, But even the moments with Grogu, and he is proud of it all. I really like that. It was kind of like a just reward. Life's been tough. I'm glad you're here, Din, doing the right thing. This is the way.
Yeah, he has a lot of challenges upcoming with that. Darksaber and Gideon's still out there, and I think there's still the possibility that maybe there's going to be some parts of the way that aren't going to work for Grogu or Bo-Katan. He's got plenty of challenges coming, but it is fun to see him in this point of stasis. He is not the character who is going through change or challenge in this episode. He is, but the focus isn't there. And for me, that's just fine.
Yeah, no, I really love what they're doing with Bo-Katan. I really do. In a way I wasn't expecting, coming in.
Yeah. Well, I'm excited to hear your Bo-Katan thoughts, your Keller and Beck thoughts, your theme thoughts. So let's get into the big ideas of what's at stake in this episode. How did you break down some of the ideas? What impacted you?
I start with the big when I consider the thesis statement, you said something too. I definitely think is very important about what is the way, right? It's a big kind of question. Quite frankly, I think that's the season, right? But it's Kellerman Beck saying everything's going to be all right, kid. That's the theme to me. This is and a title of the Foundling. I'm going to steal a little bit of our discussion section about the title. I'm going to put it here. I asked myself, what is that? Based on your format, Joseph, I was like, okay, go. Yeah. What does the Foundling mean? It's like, that means being found, means being protected, being trained and taught, being part of something bigger. And that's not just Grogu. That's a lot of these characters, a lot of what's happening here, and all centered around this great heroic moment. But it's the character, Kellerman Beck, in the right place at the right time. We'll get into some of it, and some of it is a little meta. Some of it is about who Ahmed is, or the character of Jar Jar, and some of the stuff you and I have talked about Jar Jar before, but just what it means for the next generation, for the kids, and what you and I feel about our generation that tried to stamp out the flames of fire, the fire of Star Wars in '99, and now how that keeps going, and the generational. It's not just generational change. We always talk about that, but the shepherding of the next generation, and how that's important, and how you move forward with them, and how you protect them, but also prepare them. Like, it was such a beautiful episode, but all tying to me to that line from Kellerman Beck. Everything's going to be all right, kid.
No, I love this thought, and I love highlighting that line. In terms of the title stuff, we can just move some of our chatter here. I love the episodes where the title makes perfect sense, but it is still also open for interpretation, right? The Foundling specifically could refer to Grogu. It could refer to Ragnar, Paz Vizsla's brutally kidnapped child. It could refer to the Raptor babies, right? It arguably Bo-Katan. She's 50-something, I believe, but she is, in a way, a Foundling. She has lost everybody. Everybody in her immediate family is dead. The Corky mystery remains. She claims that she's the last of her line. Maybe Corky's out there surviving. Maybe when she gets more armor, she'll flash back to the trauma of losing Corky. I hope so. But I want to talk more about this. But I think that's one of the great things the episode's playing with Bo-Katan. Of is she the leader? Is she a parent figure? Is she a child? Is she both? How is that going to sit with her? So the idea of the Foundling, I think, even extends to her. And of course, I think ultimately for me, the title is exactly what you're saying. It's inviting us to think about, what does that mean? What's important about the idea of a Foundling, and how do all these different characters fit into the idea of what a Foundling is?
Yeah, well said indeed. And I would, again, Foundling goes a lot of different spots, just like last week's title probably meant more about the New Republic at times than Dr. Persian, but it meant all of it. I really, really think so much of this applies to Bo-Katan. I love that you pointed out Corky out there somewhere, maybe. But really, she's an orphan in this world, including the fact that even her own people, the ones that she was leading around, have left her. Casca Reeves, you turned your back on her. All right. Well, you've turned your back on her. She is an orphan, and she has been found, and she's growing into her station, her true station. And you talk about change, hers right now. I don't know where this ends. And I love every week kind of trying to predict it. I don't quite know. But hers is a story of ongoing growth, that often sometimes our growth continues beyond the plateaus that you reach, that you think you've climbed that mountain and you're here. Right. I have the Darksaber now. I'm carrying on the legacy of my sister. Ain't this great? Ain't this grand? Oh, no, that's just the next step. And that's life. And that continues. So we are all Foundlings, right? We're all 12-year-olds facing the world over and over again. And I think so much of this episode was obviously about her, focus on her, the end beat with her. I would absolutely call her a Foundling.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so glad that you're looking at it that way as well. And I love what you're saying. We've got a lot lately of wonderful midlife to later in life crisis in Star Wars. And I think it is the original trilogy, Anakin's Fall, and the prequel trilogy, arguably there's a lot going on in the sequel trilogy, but arguably, Rey's journey can all be about taking those steps into adulthood. Right. And then there are these figures like Bo-Katan, where she completed those steps, right? She resisted the call to be a good leader, and she fell in with the Death Watch, and she made a change and did everything right, and life still didn't work out. And as a middle-aged person, right? The power of, hey, I did everything right, and there are still problems. It means it's not just as simple as those foundational lessons. Those foundational lessons are needed, but now I got to re-examine them, and I got to go through the path again. Is powerful.
Very powerful. I mean, let me check my personal YouTube subscription numbers. Oh no, I did everything I needed. It's still not there. But this is spiritually connected. It's not. The circumstances are different and the beats are different, but it's spiritually connected to Luke and Octal. Absolutely, it's this big lesson, and why Star Wars needs to have that stuff as it grows older, approaching 50 years before you even know it. That's scary. As it grows older, it has to speak to all the fans, and I think it's very important. Her on that chair. There's been great TikToks of, was it Bargain Basement, Bo-Katan or whatever. Is that great stuff on TikTok? But the video of her sitting there and leg up and bummed and quite frankly pissed off, I think has a lot of this, a lot of what you're saying. I did everything. I took that sword. I took it, but I'm still here. And I am as as if I was born anew. I don't know where to go. And I love following her on this journey.
Yeah, I believed, I fought, I brought people together. I told them it could happen. It didn't. They left me. And I was sweatpants Bo-Katan on my couch for a little bit yesterday.
That's Bo-Katan's name. Yes, good memory.
Yeah. So I want to get back to this bigger idea because Bo-Katan definitely plays a part of it of what you're talking about. I thought that the episode showed us a lot of different beliefs of the Children of the Watch. We're going to break each individual thing down in canon because they said a lot of what the creed is, but they made this really big argument about one of the biggest things. The armor says you have done the highest honor of the creed, saving a foundling. So we're shown some beliefs, I think, that would make us sympathetic to the Children of the Watch and invite us to ask what is strong about the community, what gives them unity and strength, but also hints about what makes their culture potentially cold and isolating. And to focus on what makes them strong and what gives them unity and strength is this whole parent-child bond, this wonderful thing that's celebrated in like every beat of this episode, right? We start with Din's pride and encouragement of Grogu, right? If Din and other roles that Pedro Pascal is playing, like in Last of Us, has kind of put this focus on him as this awesome father figure. Wow, your dad being so proud he wants you to show off. Amazing, right? Yeah. We see this father-son, father-child connection, and Paz feels this desperation to save his son. We've almost only ever seen Paz be angry and kind of big, heavy infantry baby stompy about the way, jealous of Din. Bitter. And this was desperation. He's my son, right? It was beyond the way. It was personal, and the way is personal, right? But they see him express it. Then, of course, we have Kelleran's defense of Grogu, which isn't the Children of the Watch, but it is inviting us to connect some of their beliefs and philosophy to the way of the Jedi, and seeing that Kelleran's role, and we'll discuss his history in canon adjacent as somebody who is attached to younglings. But seeing that it's not just a random flashback, it is a time of a parent figure protecting a child figure, all the way down to treating, the orphaned raptors as foundlings of like, hey, some vicious stuff happened, but they're orphans too. So we're going to take care of them and probably ride them. Let's be honest. They're going to ride them. Yeah.
That's good.
So it's just like, I know some of this stuff is obvious, but I just like saying it out loud because it's every beat, it's every moment reinforcing this idea and then inviting you to me, ask questions about it.
Yeah, and the questions are important, and I don't mean to be snarky, but you go out there on Twitter and you see some folks whose job it is to cover media who stop at the questions as if they're upset at the questions. Well, what's this about? Watch, dig in. The show's inviting you in from the beginning, the opening shots of all these Mandos training. which is funny because I sometimes have a little issues with group training scenes because of some of the people in the background. Like when you go to the Night's Watch in Game of Thrones and there's a bunch of extras training sword fighting and it looks horrible. It's one of my pet peeves in entertainment. So I think I started this episode going, oh man, they better train right. But it just starts right there. I don't want to digress too far, but like it just starts everything about like preparing all these foundlings, all these apprentices, the training. And what that means. I got some Coach Ken stuff I want to talk about. Like it's all there, and I love what you're asking. It does ask these questions. It wants you to.
Yeah. It is, and it is about legacy. It is about protecting the children now, but teaching them to protect themselves and passing on the legacy. But there's a lot of great stuff in here, and then some stuff I question. I think one of the biggest things to me in terms of, okay, great. I still think I've got some questions and some problems with Children of the Watch. But to see that they are unified in the protection of children, foundlings above all else, I think one of the ways that the show built on its own storytelling in a wonderful way is Paz Vizsla. It doesn't seem to like Din. He seems to every chance he gets. He's labeled him a coward and Knife fought him. He's labeled him an apostate and Knife fought him. I think some of those wounds that Din dealt to him when Paz challenged him for the Darksaber probably took a long time to heal, if ever fully. House Kryze and House Vizsla have some history, not all of it great, right? Yeah. And we've got all of that history. So to see that, like, none of that matters to any of them in the face of the child being endangered, right? Like, it seems like Din and Paz probably just really, really deeply don't like each other, is the vibe. But Paz has rescued Din. Din thanked him for it. Now, Din has rescued Paz's child, and there's that, that deeply felt thank you. And this is the way. This is the way. So it to me, what it really raised is this idea of like, there's even a little bit of tension. Is like, anybody going to get creeped out by Grogu being different, when Din tells him like, it's okay. You can show them who you are, what you can do. Right. For me, that raises the question like, is it? Right. Are any of them going to have a problem with it? And then the episode really, especially with the armor being a parent figure to Grogu as well, it really shows that like physically they will do anything to keep Grogu safe. Yeah. But then it starts to raise these emotional questions of, but is this the right path for him? Is it emotionally, philosophically safe for Grogu? Because it's so easy to look at this and go, what, they're heroes. They've got a great code. It's save kids. But there's also the rigidity. There's also the, you don't question the authority figures. You don't question the way. It is what it is, period. And that rigidity is dangerous. And you're wondering about, I'm wondering about where this is going for Grogu, because it looks great. A part of it looks great right now.
A part of it. No, I actually, in our notes I put down, I want to talk about the current state of Children of the Watch, because, and I'm glad you got there. Because it does make a case for a lot of things. Like clearly, I think this episode is saying here's a lot of things about it. But I think one of the key moments for me is that you got, a mama pterodactyl dinosaur flying off with, the kid, and Paz says it always gets away. So everything that they're doing that is to be cherished, is to be held up as honor and maybe the right thing. Everything they're doing, they're so stuck in how they do it that this keeps happening, right? They can't get past it. And this, I think leads to a lot of stuff about Bo and her leading them forward and her place and her coming into her own all over again. Sure. Yes, absolutely. In terms of lore and ticking off plot points. But I just was really affected by that line. It always gets away. So clearly it's not the first time. They're very happy to live on Dinosaur Attack River, which I would not be at this point. And just to be spoke of some of the limitations of what's going on there.
It did take people who are currently Children of the Watch, both Din and Bo, but it did take people kind of coming from the outside and adding something more and handling it in a different way so far to get the Children of the Watch through both of the dinosaur attacks that we've seen. Apparently there are many. Yeah. we haven't seen the Stegosaurus that's lurking in the cave that tries to eat the armor every other day. But I'm looking forward to seeing that one. I love having fun with this. Yeah, I want to talk about Bo-Katan a little bit. Is we're talking about this, what is good and maybe what is challenging about this wonderful parent-child bond that is so important to the children of the watch. Is I feel like Bo-Katan in this episode is trapped between her roles as a paternal, or not paternal, as a parent figure, a maternal figure, and is a childlike figure. She's really stepping into that, just awesome aunt, maybe maternal figure toward Grogu, right? The way that she just naturally she's just kind of watching, taking it all in, right?
Yeah.
As soon as Grogu is in place, she swoops in and she's on one side,
Like the night owl, yeah.
Right? Like the night owl, right? And in the way that that Din is Din's got his I'm a dad now helmet on, which is just tell Grogu stuff, right?
Yeah.
And Bo-Katan's the one who leans in and kind of tells Grogu what he needs to hear. To be fair, Din does that too at the end.
Yeah.
But, but when she leans in and says, "Don't worry, my dad was the same way. He's just proud of you." Letting Grogu understand that's an incredibly paternal parent moment for Bo-Katan. And then there's that stepping up, jumping in the ship without anybody asking, right? The leadership skills that she marches up to the armor and tells the armor what needs to be done, and the armor's like, "Cool, great,
he got
for it." Right? And Bo-Katan leads the party, right? She makes the plan. She's the leader.
Yeah.
But then within that, there's also these moments of sort of being infantilized is a big word for it, maybe a little bit of an intense word, but clearly the Children of the Watch has some relationship with Death Watch, clearly some different rules, like the helmet. It seems like Death Watch followed the parts of the old ways that they liked. And Children of the Watch are just like, we're following everything.
Death Watch is like, we can eat in the car. Everyone take your helmets off. We're good.
Right? But that this kind of place she's trapped in was like really powerful to me, of like when she has to lean over to Din and go, how the hell do we eat without breaking the creed? And the answer is kind of upsetting in a way, because there's so much in this episode that's been about, we come together for the children, we work together, we save one another, this is the way. But what an isolating way to eat, like food, dining together, a campfire the day before battle. These are all signifiers of community, and instead this creed forces isolation. So she asks a rule she doesn't know, she's isolated, and then she's told that isolation and that paranoia of looking over my shoulder while I eat, because what if somebody sees me with my helmet off? She's told that that's an honor. You are the leader of the war party. You have the honor of staying by the fire. So I think that there's tension there in the parent role versus the child role. And then I think it's really driven home at the end, where great performance by Katie Sackhoff, where I think she allows herself to be childlike, to reach out to the armorer as a parent figure, right? Like the armorer really is like, I was going to say, I gave you this much rope, but she literally gave them rope. So it's a joke. She literally gave them longer rope, but like Bo-Katan's like, here's my plan. I want to do it. And the armor's like, sure. And then when she comes back, she's like, the armor reclaims that position of authority by saying, you did a good job and you deserve this new armor. And I think for all of us who we want to be independent, we want to make our own path. But then sometimes when somebody wants to swoop in and become a parent, it's warm and comforting. And sometimes, depending on what the motivations of the person are, there's this danger in saying, I'm going to let myself fall back into this passive childlike role, And I feel like Bo-Katan is kind of in that place of vulnerability where it's like, this feels great. I did something. It was right. The authority figure told me it was right. And now the authority figure is going to reward me. So I'm going to ask if it's okay that I have the mythosaur on my armor. And then I'm going to have the most vulnerable thing possible. I'm going to ask them to believe I saw something.
Yeah.
And I think this is where it really gets into like, okay, the episode is still inviting us to go, hey, some great things about Children of the Watch, but what else is going on?
Yeah.
Because it feels like, to me, like Bo-Katan takes this huge leap of faith of like, is it okay for me to put a little bit of faith in this authority figure who's very rigid and controlling?
Mm.
And I don't know if she's entirely rewarded when the armor just won't have a conversation with her. The armor is absolutely sticking to, well, when you choose to walk the way of the Mandalore, you will see many things. Bo-Katan says, but it was real. This is the way. That is a cutting off of conversation to me.
Yeah.
So anyway, I wanted to get through kind of those thoughts and get your take.
I love that you went all the way to that moment. That is, I love that ending. This is what I said. I love the stuff they're doing with Bo-Katan because it's not clear. It's still a journey. That's the leap of faith. You said a big trust moment, right? It wasn't I saw. It's like, hey, what if I told you? Because Bo-Katan's still not sure about it, and I took that this is the way as dismissive for me. Very dismissive. Very, like you said, end the conversation. Not maybe entirely cold. Only because that is their way. That is her way, and it. Also, it didn't because the conversation ended. We don't get to see any kind of power play. We don't get to see kind of an exchange of ideas, questions, theories, everything. It is like, as you say, Bo-Katan is now cast almost second tier at this particular time, even though she is being rewarded. I love that. Yeah. Everyone wants to get a little love, right? I did good. I get my new pauldron. So that's one of those. So it ends with questions for me, and why that we don't have answers yet, and why I love what this episode did. More further the Bo-Katan character. This is I truly think it's a co-star season, right? I truly think this is a play that this show is asking about what is the way, and what is the way to be in Mandalorian, and what that means for all of us, and what that means in this era. That's the stuff that hangs over it more than notice there was no Palpatine test clone tubes this week. I thought it was very important, and I don't have all those answers at the end. It was played. You're right, played very well. Magic, wonder, frustration, but no, I saw it. That's cute. This is the way.
Yeah. And I don't think that it's necessarily, I think it's open-ended whether Armor believed her or not. And I'm sure people listening have lots of different interpretations. But I feel like from Bo-Katan's side, she wants to have a conversation. Bo-Katan is somebody who has believed in pouring a meaning into symbols, right? She has believed in the power of some of the old ways when she was with Death Watch. She has believed in the power of wielding the Darksaber. She believed in the power of getting it back and going to Mandalore and proving that the world wasn't dead. And then she had that knocked out from under her when she couldn't get the Darksaber and nobody would follow her. And she's kind of retreated back to like, but there are practical things to consider. Symbols are great, but let's deal with the real world as well. The living waters they're meaningful, but part of their meaning is that's literally where we got the armor we're wearing. Like it's functional. You can see it. It's real. You can touch it. It's tactile. It's real. And I feel like Bo-Katan is desperate to have a conversation with the armor and understand what the armor thinks about the possibility that the mythosaur is real, what it might mean to the culture by discussing the real thing. Yeah. And the armor is saying, I will only discuss the mythosaur with you on the level of metaphor. It is a noble vision. When you choose to walk the way of the Mandalore, you will see many things. I think it's not gaslighting. I think that's too far, but it's really like to me, it felt maddening, like when you're a little kid and you're not even a little kid, maybe even more like, getting into tweens, and you want to understand something more, and what you really need is the truth, and your parents aren't ready to move beyond metaphor, right?
Yeah.
This is a little jokey, but like, I think, if you're truly ready, like I'm hearing things at school, I want to understand where babies come from. And your parents are still like, when a man and a woman love one another very much, the next generation is their love is manifesting like, great, cool. I want to bleep and know what goes where. What are the rules? Am I nuts? I'm feeling these things. Can you help me? And the parent isn't there yet. to help them with the facts.
That's fascinating. You bring that up. The armor in an episode that I truly, think is very much about everything's going to be all right, kid. It ends with this beat of, I don't know, kid. I'm not going to tell you. Like kind of like, that's nice. It's Princess Bride. That's nice. That sounds like fun. Like it's fascinating to me. It can get also meta. It feels like to me when you're like, man, I watched this episode of Star Wars and it spoke to me because these are the themes. And someone goes, oh, that's funny. You think these silly stories have meaning. You can take it to be what you want. It's just, I don't know. I love what you're saying about this moment.
Yeah.
So many questions about the armor.
Yeah. And yeah, like I said, I think a lot of people have different takes. I'm not sure if the armor is still just weighing her thoughts on it, if she really is being so rigid that she doesn't believe. She talked to Din in the Book of Boba Fett episode about, it said that a mythosaur will rise, but is the armor secretly like under that helmet? Is she secretly like, none of this stuff is true, but they need to believe it? Like,
no,
we don't know yet. Is she like the motivational speaker who goes out on stage like, do this, do that, and then they just go behind the curtain and just like, it's all BS and start weeping. Like, but I gotta say it for them to stay with me.
The armor behind the curtain. Well, no, I love that. This is just speculation more than even just the themes and stuff. But it's just like, she does tell Din that she believes it. If you see the mythosaur, that's a sign that you might be the leader. You might reunite Mandalore. And here you get someone going, hey, so I just saved some people in your covert, and I kind of united some folks in a way. I think I saw the mythosaur. Is the armor going, oh, that's nice. And then next week we're gonna have her with the mask off, smoking a cigarette, going, holy bleep, oh god, she might be it. Oh no, that might be. Oh, I'm gonna lose my power.
Yeah, and she blames the Kryze sisters, the Kryze family, for the destruction of Mandalore.
Yeah.
She thinks it's their fault. She told Din that directly in her Wikipedia summary of the history of the Clone Wars and Rebels animated series. Like, yeah. Yeah, so I think there's some great stuff, some beautiful stuff with the absolute need to protect and train the next generation. But there's still some questionable stuff in the authoritarian, you cannot question vision that the armor might be.
Yeah, no, I really agree with you there. I was so curious about, at the end of this episode of just, it makes some cases, but it's not the end of the trial.
Yeah. The other thing I wanted to talk about in terms of analyzing the Children of the Watch and the Way is this idea that really resonated with me when I did my rewatch of The Mandalorian Book of Boba Fett up to this. In the first season, in Chapter 3, The Sin, the armorer tells Din, when one chooses to walk the way of Mandalore, you are both hunter and prey. And I think, in all the excitement of everything going on in those early seasons, like, I think I heard that because I got the point that, like, you get new armor, you go out, you're a bounty hunter. You go out and you hunt. I'm going to give you really shiny armor that's going to put a target on your back everywhere you go. Yeah. Like right away, we get one of my favorite scenes of him walking into the cantina and Grief yelling, they all hate you, Mando. Yeah. So it resonated with me about that immediate moment, but it's also one of those lines that's at risk of sort of disappearing because it just sounds cool, right? Like, awesome. Yeah. Mandalorians are both hunter and prey. But that line was ringing in my ears from the beginning of this episode of really, what is that philosophy? And I think if walking the way of Mandalore is both hunter and prey, it means that the Children of the Watch are accepting, believing, embracing that they are part of nature's deadly cycle. But by taking that into a community, right, where they're sentient beings and they can choose, animals don't get to choose, right? They're part of nature's deadly cycle. That's just it, right?
Yeah.
But the Mandalorians can choose, and they are potentially, by saying we are both hunter and prey, potentially investing in a view of all interactions that is kill or be killed. That is might makes right. And just as much as every part of this episode is imbued with the wonderful taking care of children, it's also imbued with the idea of hunter and prey, right? We start with training with rituals, which you can absolutely view as you're helping the next generation, but you're also sparring with one another. And it's not, hey, you both did great. You both have the skills to live now. It's there's a clear winner and a loser, and there's a judge who announces it in front of everybody you know, right? And to me, arguably, Grogu's surprise defeat of cocky young Ragnar isolates him, right? To me, there's a little bit of like he walks away shocked and shamed, right? Even his dad is back there going, quoting that line about, you don't speak unless you know. He is declared the loser, and it isolates him. He walks away, and it makes him vulnerable. He's the one who gets grabbed, right? And then everything in the episode is pretty straightforward. Of the raptor turns Ragnar, who's training to be a hunter, into prey. Then the Mandalorians have to hunt the raptor. The raptor intends to feed her young with Ragnar, so he's just part of the cycle of hunter and prey, the natural world. And then, of course, the resolution of it, of the raptor being eaten by there's always a larger predator, thanks Qui-Gon, being eaten by the space alligator. And then I guess there's also a little bit of the cycle of them not leaving the hatchlings to be prey, but taking them in. But all these cycles of hunter and prey that are going on in the episode, some of them are just the Mandalorians casting themselves as part of the natural world, just as the river dinosaur eats the air dinosaur. So too will we be killed, will eat or be eaten. That's the way it is. I want to ask you how you feel about that philosophy in a community. Is choosing to replicate the most vicious part of the natural world the best choice for sentient beings?
No, I think it deserves a deeper dive, and I think you've really cracked open an interesting part of it, because it's clearly what is shown there with Ragnar. I always wrote down Paz Jr., so I apologize to young nephew of Jimmy Kimmel. I think I said son previously, nephew of Jimmy Kimmel. Yeah, because that's literally what happens, right? And by the way, it does sound jokey, but like, does the armor? Is this what she says to them at every time one of their younglings or foundlings are taken off and eaten? Like, well, we're hunter or prey. That's why we're on Dinosaur Attack River. Sorry, kids, this is life. And so in an episode that's about protecting and growing the future, which is something so strong to them. Again, it always gets away. I go back to Paz. I do think it has a downside. I do think there's a comment on it.
Yeah, is this a victory for everyone, or is this? I mean, in some ways, yes, because the community came together. Everyone, regardless of interpersonal conflict, came together because this is the way we protect foundlings. So that's fist pumping. But the other children have been snatched up, and are those parents' failures compared to Bo-Katan? The way that I'm glad that you highlighted that Paz Vizsla line it keeps happening this way, Yeah. And we try to approach them and they eat the kid. Well, what are you going to do? and it is Bo who's like, gonna get my bleeping ship. And so does it cast her in this philosophy? Does this cast her as great? The covert has won as a whole because they have fulfilled their creed. But is there any part of Paz Vizsla who's he's stewing in bitterness that these outsiders are the ones who saved his child?
It could be. He's probably living in a world of gratitude right now. But I know. I think this is also this is I think very much part of it, and I think it does obviously have ramifications for a world. You and I have talked often after some. I think during the Clone Wars reports you first were bringing up of when you look at the world of wins and losses. There is a dark side to that. There's a danger of that. I think you can look at the training, the refiner's fire aspect of it. We talked about that very clearly at play in this episode. But all is not well, right? All is not. It always gets. It's almost like you want to make fun of it. I'm not making fun of Paz's pain in that moment, but it's like, your jetpacks run out of fuel. This happens every time. Like, analyze it. Stop and analyze it.
What are you doing about it? Yeah, and I think that's the thing is like, well, what are you doing about it? What plan are you making? Or are you going to this rigid, dark place of, well, it's on you. You let your child become prey and it was hunted. That's the way of things.
Mm-hmm.
Why weren't you strong enough? Why weren't you fast enough? Why aren't you the better hunter?
Yeah,
like, we don't explicitly hear that because it is the whole community going and making it a priority and rescuing it. But it invites that question of what the hell's the conversation after this has happened 2 times?
Right. Yeah. Once, an accident, twice is a trend, or whatever statement you want to use.
Third time's a buffet for the raptor.
Yeah. No, because this also does tie. And by the way, I think you and I both. This is why we love this episode, right? I loved. There's so much to celebrate. I literally stood up and celebrated the parts of this episode, but I love what I would consider a downbeat of an ending in terms of a song. It ends just kind of with trails off, and you're wondering, and how this ties to the Mandalorian culture and Bo's thoughts, right? That we just fought each other. We just kept fighting, right? We didn't come together, we didn't learn, we didn't protect our culture, we didn't protect our people. We just kept fighting until one of us lost, and then turns out the entire culture lost. I think that's what's in her mind too, as we're analyzing it. And again, I think even as an audience, not what you and I are suggesting, but even as an audience, you can be like, every week is a win or a loss. The children of the watch are winning. It's more than that. It's analyzing all.
Yeah, and I think we still don't have kind of the answers of how much of. We saw Death Watch take a philosophy of might makes right, that Mandalorians are strong. And so I believe there's some pretty straightforward lines from Pre Vizsla in the Clone Wars of like, we should rule because we can literally physically take over communities. And if they want to not be taken over, they should be stronger. That's explicitly the philosophy of Death Watch. And right now we get to see the children of the Watch try to get by, right? And in this episode in particular, you can almost look at it as like, well, they're just in rhythm with nature. All these other beasts around them are not good or bad. They're hunter and prey as they just try to get through life and feed their young, right?
Yeah.
So there's a temptation to look at it just in physically what the environment the children of Watch are in now. But if everything is might makes right, everybody is hunter and prey. What happens when you take that philosophy out into the larger galaxy and start interacting with other people, right?
Yeah. And this is about this. I really believe this season. There's still a lot of things, and yes, it is going to start maybe connecting in minor ways, maybe major ways to the bigger Star Wars story. But even some of the comments Filoni keeps saying about the you and I and Jen talking about big climactic story event is more about what's going on in this era for these people and these characters. Then simply Thrawn comes back with some test tubes to build Palpatine. I'm joking about that, of course. But how does Mandalorians find themselves in this world at this time, and how do they want to go forward?
Yeah, and if they can reclaim their culture, reclaim their planet, they're right back to the same choice that is in the Mandalorian Civil Wars that has Satine ascending to the throne of. Do we just need to be strong for ourselves and take care of ourselves, or is a part of our culture that we are out there taking things from other people because that's who we are? Is this philosophy of the armor is just for now to survive, or will she want to go out and conquer to prove that they are more hunter than prey?
Yeah, endgame of this covert is something I've thought about a few times. I get why they were hiding out in the beginning. They felt they had to, and then they're scattered it even more. And here they are. What do you do from here? Is this it? We just sit on this river and get attacked every other day? That's the way of it.
Yep.
The way.
Just the weak ones, I guess. No.
Yeah.
There is. I'm partially wanting to bring up the challenging parts of the Children of the Watch because this episode so celebrates many wonderful things.
Yeah, 100%.
Including, I want to talk a little bit about the scene with Grogu, because I think that was the other big thematic idea that really resonated with me, this idea of forging yourself. You brought it up really well, of like, from a positive perspective, all of these trials are the elders teaching the young how to defend themselves, how to all the skills and the technology they need to face the world. So you can look at it in a positive way. I felt like the episode did a great job with Grogu of kind of reminding us that he chose to be with Din, but he's still in a little bit of stasis, right? He doesn't really want to move forward. He doesn't want to participate at first. First, Dad makes him, and then we're really getting the sense that now it is coming to Grogu of like, great, you decided to be with Din, but now you have to choose to be a Mandalorian. And a ton of great stuff in this episode, but I love the choice to have the perspective shot of his view of the cavern in the forge as he waddles in. And it really makes you feel like he's choosing whether or not he wants to follow this path. And then we get into all the actual forging stuff and the great new lines from the armor. But how do you feel about that? How do you feel about Grogu being shown to be in a little bit of stasis at the beginning of this episode and then being pushed to choose to be a Mandalorian? Yeah, no, that absolutely makes a lot of sense. I think that's even some of the stuff going on with Din. Grogu to me is not just simply tossed out to sink or swim in this moment. There's just a lot of pride. This isn't Tarkin being sent out to hunt and either you get to the top or you die, kid, in that Tarkin novel. A little bit of energy with pause, which I think is why you're right to bring up some of the stuff with that. But this is about shaping ourselves, refining ourselves, these trials and adversities. I think you do have to lose to learn, but that doesn't mean you have to do that alone. So to see it from Grogu's perspective, to him look at where he started to where he is now, the armor is on him. You're either going to grow into your station, and he's made this big decision, but it's clearly not the end of the journey. And it does begin with him just sitting on the beach wanting to play with crab rocks. Looking away from it all, of like, it's so funny. It's almost the Charlie Brown comic strip at the beginning there. Look at all the kids doing this. And look at Grogu over here going, eh. It's the Christmas singing. Charlie Brown clip with Pigpen on the piano or Schroeder on the piano. Oh, God, that's great. Pigpen dancing. Yeah. Know exactly what you're talking about. But that's literally, it's time. It's time. And, it's time. And that's definitely what this episode starts with. So I went on that. Mm-hmm. Yeah, take a force leap, which is a literal leap of faith. Show them who you are. Show them what you can do. Show them. And we're analyzing what is the way. Is this the way? They keep saying the way. What's that mean? And that absolutely needs to apply to Grogu. So I think you're right. Yeah, absolutely. And I think there is a okay, well, he's weird, he's different, and we're gonna have to get used to that. But he's accepted, but he's got to follow the rules, right? Because it's definitely no longer Din and Grogu out on the road. It's not the Village Roadshow with those two. And you get the sense that we talk about Din. This is what I think you and I both saw in Din in these moments. Yes, more to come with that character, more to come with him, choices as with all of us. But Din I think he could be like, this is great, got it, I'm living here. Right. Like, and you're going to be part of this, and you're going to figure out, you've come back to me. It's no longer just us. It is this group. And then so Grogu has that in front of him to choose. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He has to choose. And I like that he's also pushed in by the armor of saying, hey, your dad's giving you some gifts. I made that chainmail for you, and that's fine. But now you have to be an active participant in your journey. Right. The great forging scene, and her quote is, just as we shape the Mandalorian steel, we shape ourselves. And the forge can reveal weaknesses. This is the other thing where I thought, like, this is building so beautifully on the lore and the visual language of the show, The Mandalorian. This is Grogu following in his father's footsteps. And it was another thing that really affected me on the rewatch of The Mandalorian is when we first saw the various scenes and in the first season where the armor is hammering and he is flashing back to his childhood. I think it felt meaningful. I think we were eager to know his backstory. We were talking about his backstory. I think we even had fun, and we, I mean, the entire Star Wars community had fun making fun of the trauma hammer. Like
Mm-hmm.
when a doorbell rings, does he flash back to his trauma? Right. When I watched it again, it felt like this is a conscious choice. This is the ritual. You're not sent out of the room while the armor makes your armor. This is the way. You sit there and you think about what made you you, and you think about why you wear this armor, and you think about what you want this armor to mean. You sit there and you think about it. The armor doesn't say that specifically to Din, but in retrospect, that's exactly what's going on. Particularly vital in Chapter 3, The Sin, because he's not just having a random flashback to his origin story for the benefit of the audience. Din is thinking through what is most important to him about being a Mandalorian, that they are saviors, they are strength, that when a foundling, an orphan in trouble looks up, they are not death, they are salvation. And I think it's a big part of his decision to go back for Grogu. The control knob is what tips him over, but he's sitting there doing what he's supposed to do, in my opinion, in the ritual. Think about what made him who he is and who he wants to be, and that's a huge part of what makes him go after Grogu. So now Grogu is doing this exact same thing. He seems to understand what the armor says of like, you sit there and think through your trauma, think through what forged you, and is it still a weakness, or can you make what has happened to you into a strength?
Yeah, that's a real key thing. The Forge can reveal weakness. I really love this because it, beyond just, some of our way we love to discuss and analyze and break down Star Wars is asking why the scenes. And I remember I was in a control booth of a show, and there was a pundit on the show I was pressing buttons for, who was reviewing that second time we saw Din go back. And they were like, why do we have to see this again? We get it. He has memories. And I just remember I wanted to jump out of the booth. Be like, ask him why? It's so purposeful. And I think you're right. At the time, it's easy just to go, well, that's it definitely, it is a tool for the audience to know a little bit more about him, but not necessarily for the character. And I had the exact same thought. Sit down. I'm going to make this and think about it. The Forge can reveal weakness. What is your weakness? Go back to that moment. And Grogu understands these words, right? He's Gugu and Gaga with his way through life, but he hears it all. He understands. Squeeze your wrists and you can fire the darts. He's 51 now, for God's sakes.
52, 53. We don't know.
We don't know. Proper way answer that. But I absolutely think this confirms that for me. That was absolutely thought I had this is the process. Because again, it goes to even more. We've seen the armor this season of the forging of the helmet and forging of something so sci-fi and so tech heavy. The Mandalorian armor, right? It's an Iron Man suit in Star Wars, all that kind of stuff, and to see that it's so spiritual, which makes sense. I'm not surprised by that, but to see it analyzed and explored in that way, this is absolutely is open up the com tab and press the meditation section and think about it while I do this.
Yep. I love how much we're getting to see all of the making of the armor, because we joked about it and talked about it. I love that it's mythic, spiritual armor with a touch of Radio Shack as she works on all the circuitry. It's so great. Mythic, spiritual Radio Shack. Love it. So some of Grogu's greatest acting, right?
100%.
Horribly painful look on his face when he's like, it makes me feel like it's a choice, and it makes me feel like there's also like almost something spiritual where, like, how different sounds pierce us in different ways, right? And we get an emotional reaction to it. It's almost like, I'm not suggesting that it is the Force or anything like that. I think it's metaphorical, but it almost feels like there is something to the ring of that metal that takes you to the roughest place you've been through. I think it's a choice of the characters to embrace it and go through it, right? But it almost feels like it's like the way fingernails on chalkboard we have a visceral reaction to. This is almost like this sort of like emotional fingernails on a chalkboard of it. It seems to be like Grogu going like, okay, I know I'm supposed to think about what made me, and every hammer. Oh, I'm back in Order 66.
Well, yeah, I mean, nails on chalkboard. Yeah, that's a great way to look at it. I mean, I could even go in the way of music because, of course, I always can, and I make the show Music Center too much. But you ever hear a song that years later it takes you right back to where you were, whether even though you're not that depressed or lonely anymore, you're in a happy relationship, and you're like, oh, I remember when I was lonely. Let me think about this. It's
music's one of the most powerful things, right? Yeah, and that's one of the powerful things about music. Sometimes it's association. Sometimes, especially when you're younger, like. Could I tell you when I was 6 years old why that song made me sad?
No,
I did not know the science of that chord and never heard that chord before. It just made me sad because that's the power of music, Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that if you're in tune with it, it's, I don't do a lot of meditation, but this might be some of it. It's like, hey, when you train to do this, you learn to meditate. This is something that's there. And even though this is Grogu's first exposure to it, I mean, someone tells you to do it. Hey, I'm going to build this. Think about it, and then you're staring at the cocoon, like, yeah, absolutely with you.
Yeah, and then it's it isn't to me just like it does absolutely serve the purpose of we learn more about his story. The Kelleran Beck reveal, awesome, right? But in terms of the story, in terms of Grogu, he is being pushed to choose to be a Mandalorian. He is being pushed just like. Pushed hard to forge himself. And just like Luke asked him of it, and Ahsoka kind of opened it just a little bit. He's being told again and again by everyone he meets, you gotta face that part of your life that you just don't want to think about. And it's interesting to me that where his mind goes is, where's a time that I felt helpless and surrounded by death, but it also we got Din's backstory in flashes. It slowly built to the full story, right?
Yeah,
and it really made me think about, obviously what he's going through is traumatic. There's sudden violence in his home. There's the people he knows are dying all around him. But then a lot of this memory is being protected by someone kind and going out into the galaxy with someone kind. And I wonder if we're going to get more of the story where Grogu faces the heart of the trauma, which is losing Kelleran Beck.
Yeah. And especially after Kelleran runs and drops him off with Jar Jar Binks on Naboo. And we go there. Because I'm about 40% convinced myself that it's happening. Because the Forge can reveal weakness, right? So part of your weakness is you felt attacked, you felt lost, you felt death, you felt death around you, and kindness saves you. Kindness protects you. And then as Ahsoka reminds us, it goes dark after that, right? It goes dark. And we had speculated, a lot of people speculated, was he saved from the temple? Was he whisked away? Was he stolen from the temple? We didn't know. Now we know. It was kindness. I love using that phrase. It was kindness that saved him. It was a dedication to the younglings and the youth in the future. And now what comes next might be that weakness that he's starting to analyze.
Yeah.
It comes out of that vision. Sorry to cut you off. He comes out of that vision. Yeah. You talk about some Grogu's best acting. Absolutely. He's heartbroken. Heartbroken in that moment.
It's like I faced this part of the trauma and I can't look at the rest of it.
Yeah.
I love it. And we're going to talk more about Kelleran Beck when we get to Ken, and he will get his full due. But for me, he's a symbol of kindness and care, and he's a similarity to Din, right?
Yeah.
And what else did Ahsoka tell him in the Jedi episode of it's great that you have this bond, but that bond can become dark if attachment isn't something that you're just gaining strength from, but if it becomes your fear of losing them becomes an outlet for rage, anger, violence. Insert Yoda quote from the Phantom Menace. And I think the reason that he's thinking of this trauma and walking up to this point is, well, maybe if the thing that's holding him back is, this is wonderful to be with Din. I love being with Dad. Hey, I love Aunt Ahsoka and Aunt Bo-Katan. What if I lose them?
Yeah.
What if I lose them like I lost all of the people at the temple? And in particular, Kelleran Beck was going to be my new dad, and we were going to bounce around the galaxy having adventures together, and he was going to protect me all the time, and I would know when to close my pram with Daddy Kelleran. And this is the fear he's reliving. He loses Kelleran violently, is my hopefully responsible speculation.
Yeah.
And did he flip out?
Yeah.
Did he tap into the dark side? Is that what's being played with? Is the fear of losing Din? Yeah,
no, absolutely. Because even some moments, we'll talk about it more in lore, like you said. But like, if you, this is a second rewatch for me. He's got some smiles on his face. He's got a little of the wind whipping in his ears while Kelleran's running away. He's don't get me wrong, tense moment, everything. But there's when the ship does a dive, he has a little bit of a hey. So I think there was joy in that moment. And as we all know, life can sometimes bat you upside the head, and that might cause you to lead with fear that cuts out even the possibility of joy. And I think that's a lot of work we pick up Grogu's story and once Din finds them.
Yeah, and I think it's so at play in everything in this episode that is about parents taking care of children reinvesting faith in a parent and hoping that they aren't hurt, than to also have in that cycle of thoughts of, a traumatized toddler like Grogu saying, is it okay to love? Because I'll probably just lose them.
It is a rock song.
Is it okay to love, sung by Grogu, which brings me to the last thing I do want to talk about. We've all had fun talking about how much more Grogu is squeaking and squawking. We have got confirmation after confirmation that Grogu understands every word being said to him crystal clear, right? We get this rule that he is too young to speak the creed and so too young to wear a helmet. This is the first time where an episode has moved Grogu's first words from a fun fan thing to guess about and a fun fan thing to joke about to actual stakes. The first time he goes daddy to Din, whoosh, that helmet is getting slapped on him, right?
Yeah.
And does he want that? How do we as an audience feel about, like, it's one thing to have cool fan art of him someday having a helmet.
Yeah.
It's another thing to be like, look at the emotional connection we have with his face. And what everything the show is playing with the helmet is wonderful for choosing your identity and investing meaning in this and choosing your own path and honor in that. But it's also been shown to be something that is inhibiting connection. So I just really like that the stakes were sort of raised for his speech development rather than just being a fun guessing game into something that has stakes in the world. What do you think about that?
I absolutely love that. And also, once that helmet goes on, it's going to be really tough to fit Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder in that Grogu costume. So that's a challenge we got to deal with. But yeah, you're very right. The fan art is hilarious. The fan art's cute, adorable, whimsical. I love a lot of the fan art in Grogu wearing the armor. But it's 100% what you're saying there. The stakes, you ain't going to see that face, and it's a commitment. Even you look at Bo-Katan, whether she's playing along or figuring out, I don't know, the whole like. The flashback of last week's episode really reminded me of that. Did you walk in the living waters? I mean, well, technically, I went in to save him. Great, the mask is on. Like there's weight to it, and I thought that was a great moment. I love what you're saying there.
Yeah. No, I like that you bring up that Bo-Katan moment because it is that great push and pull of like, oh, great, I have community again, I have people again. Yeah, I can't take off my helmet. I have to limit my connection. Yeah, I think the other thing about Grogu's speech and this idea of forging yourself and facing your trauma and the forge will find your weakness is we don't yet know the story of, is this perfectly normal speech development for his species? Or was like Yoda reciting epic poems by the time he was 30 and Grogu's really behind? Has Grogu's trauma held back his development in an episode that starts with Grogu being very reluctant to move forward and just kind of wants to be with his dad and feel safe and play, and now he's being pushed? It raises a question to me about is trauma holding back his speech development?
I could follow you on that path. Yeah, I even had that moment of like, some years prior. Now we're seeing him with Kelleran at the temple, and a couple decades prior. Yeah, we don't fully understand their growth pattern, but. It was kind of similar, right? He looked younger. His skin was shinier. He's already aging up in there. The skincare routine, Grogu. But yeah, I had that thought too of could there have been some sort of stunting?
Yeah, Was Yoda normally like reading him bedtime stories to get him get him chattering? And that went away. So we talked about a lot of big themes, big ideas. We talked about the meaning of the chapter title. Was there anything in this episode that you disliked or questioned? You said you struggled a little bit with it at first before you got on its wavelength.
Yeah.
Any other struggles?
To be clear, that struggle is it's beyond Star Wars or Game of Thrones or anything. I'm trying to think of any Lord of the Rings moments. Yeah, there's some Lord of the Rings moments in the Rings of Power. Just I have a weird pet peeve of like, it's a big key training scene. We're focusing on main characters. And in the background, you have some, God bless them, wonderful day player trying to put food on the table. Just weak sword play. It's just weird. I just can't turn away from it. I'm always like, what are they doing? What is that Night's Watchman doing? That's not how you fight. Like, what are you doing? So that's where it started. But it quickly moved beyond that. No, but this I guess why we always encourage second viewings, which doesn't mean your heart is wrong after the first viewing. It just, I was so focused on Kelleran. I mean, we're running long now. Wait till I do 3 hours on Kelleran. But I had this like vibe of, it was kind of in the middle of this episode. And now it flows so nicely. So even some of the questions I have. And then we went to the other question. I really said, let's talk about our current view of the Children of the Watch. And I think it's evolving, changing, which in many directions. It's just, I think it's such the core of this season to me. What is the way?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What is the way? And this was a wonderful episode to show us some wonderful things about the way. And I think some dark notes lurking in the happy tune here for me that I can't wait to see how they explore. I think for me, I think we already got a question coming in from a listener I saw right before we started recording about the training scene. To me, the training scene was fine. I think, not everybody is as good as Din, Bo-Katan, or Boba Fett. Mm-hmm. I like them being sort of the best of the best, and maybe some of the other Mandalorians, like, you look cool in the armor, but you're not Din Djarin yet, you know?
Yeah.
But I know what you mean. Once you get an eye for, a background player making a weird face, and you see it once, like, well, there goes that film. Now I'm going to see that every time.
Yeah. It has nothing to do with it, and like they're just trying to make a bucket of food on the table. Hey, it's just, you're right. Once you see the kid in Back to the Future 3 make that weird hand gesture, you never not see it again. It's just there.
Exactly. Once I saw Bib Fortuna do like the big open mouth ha gesture when Jabba is revealed. That's where my mind goes and my eye goes all the time. This is a mild criticism for me, or a mild thing I disliked. I think that there is a pattern in some of the Mandoverse episodes to end on a very similar beat is a recent episode. Mm-hmm. Not exactly the same, because there are different nuances, but on a quick glance, they can feel kind of similar. And I think like that was a thing with Book of Boba Fett. I love Book of Boba Fett. I have had, I believe, 2 conversations the last month with people who really didn't like it, where it's like, I understand, but here's all the things I like. So, there's nuances to what is being said, but there are 2 episodes that basically end with Feng Shan saying to Fett, like, well, war is coming. We got to get ready, and that's, there are nuances. So they are different, but it's very easy to see them as similar.
Yeah.
And I felt the same about this. I absolutely love the end beat with Bo-Katan wrestling with the Mythosaur. And it is different than last week under the surface and the nuance in what she's feeling. But right on the surface, it's 2 episodes in a row that end with Bo-Katan wrestling with the Mythosaur.
Yeah. Look, I'll poke the sacred cow. I kind of have grown grumpy about Andor's 4 and 5 that end with mid-sentence looking at notes about a heist that's going to happen. I'm just like,
can Cassian finish his homework? Yes.
I totally feel you on that.
Yeah. So mild criticism. It's mostly like, I love these shows so much. I want to, like a Foundling.
Yeah.
Love that. Protect them from criticism. That's silly. They're big shows. They can take care of themselves. Anyway, any other big thoughts before we take a break?
No, we've got some big ones to come, though.
Yeah, we got some canon to talk about, so we'll be back in a moment. And we are back to continue our discussion of Chapter 20 of The Mandalorian, The Foundling. There's lots of fun canon things to talk about, from the big to the small, but we got to go to the big shock. Kelleran Beck. Kelleran Beck is the Jedi who rescued Grogu out of the temple. I'm sure people who it was great to see the celebration on social media. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure there are some people who were happy for the explainer articles or did some Googling. If for any reason you're listening and you're not familiar, Kelleran Beck is from the canon adjacent television show Jedi Temple Challenge that ran for one summer, where Kelleran Beck was a Jedi who taught younglings on board a star frigate, Athelia. And it was an old school game show, but set in the world of Star Wars. He had the nickname of the Sabered Hand. Ahmed Best had spoken publicly in interviews about building up some great lore for him. They never really kind of answered exactly what era he might be from, so that was fun speculation. So that is what we have previously known of the character Kelleran Beck. And then, of course, there is the additional weight, meaning discussion of the fact that this is Ahmed Best, well known from playing a patron of the Outlander Club, Attack of the Clones, Ahmed Beck, and of course, Jar Jar Binks. So, Ken, take us wherever you want to go, from reacting to the character Kelleran Beck to the actor Ahmed Best. What's going on for you? What's at play?
I'll start here. Have you thanked your Scott Bromley today? Scott Bromley for the Star Wars show and then Jedi Temple Challenge, and that was the way Ahmed returned to Star Wars. And he had voiced Jar Jar in Clone Wars eventually after I think what Phil Lamar had done it earlier. So that's great. I know. I want to go to the experience of it. I think you and I should start there because actually, I totally forgot. Someone maybe out there can help us. We discussed this as a possibility a while ago. Do you remember that?
We did. We did. Yeah, because I think he was on the list of characters who made sense to me, because I felt like it would be fun to have somebody that the audience had a relationship with, but not something that kind of opened up a more complex story, right?
Yeah.
Like, I know some people wanted Cal Kestis, but I feel like, well, that's really just opening up, this. Well, it can't be Cal Kestis, right? No, we know where Cal was at Order 66. It can't be Cal Kestis. They wanted Cal Kestis to rescue Grogu. My apologies. Anyway, yes.
And I'm not saying it to certainly pat the show on the back. It's just when you discuss themes, discuss the possibilities. I think that's what happens. Could have been Quinlan Vos, could have been Barriss Offee, all this stuff. And I got to tell you, there was in the back of my head, I thought, I know I can see Barriss Offee. It just seems, especially if Dave's co-writing the episode and once the moment happened. But anyways, I want to go. I only say that because this has been on our mind and it works so well. This is just a decision that goes deeper than maybe it would seem on an internet meme. But the actual when it happened, so when we get the flashback, and I have not felt this way since Rey walked up to the mirror wall in the cave, right? Where you're like, oh, here we go, right? That's just exciting itself. And then on rewatch, they say his name right away. I missed it. It's the second Jedi. I think you got a guy in the beginning that says, get him to Kelleran, and a second view, and I heard that clear as day. I did not hear that because I think I was so in my head going, ooh, here we go. And then it was like, wait, did she say? And then there was a beat. Wait. And then right before the door opened, I literally stood. I was sitting alone on my couch. I stood up because I went, they're going to do it. And then you see Ahmed. And I literally just stood up. I stood up and immediately got tears in my eyes. For Ahmed. There's great stuff about the character, but for Ahmed. And I want to talk about the Ahmed of it all. I think there's some ways to look at it that could, I don't want to say destructive. There's some ways to look at it that don't go back in history and be honest about it. I'll talk about my opinions about that in a second. But I'm not joking. It was one of my top 5 favorite experiences as a fan in the last 5, 6, 7 years. And it was so like they did this amazing, and it works on so many levels.
Yeah, I really agree with you, and I just want to. We'll definitely talk about Ahmed Best, but I want to talk about the character Kelleran and that choice a little bit as well. Barriss Offee is a great example. I think that's somebody I was thinking of. Like, that would be cool because we already know that character, but also like that character had been in theory arrested. So what's she doing there? How does that? I think the thing is, like, I was interested in it being a Jedi who made sense to be rescuing younglings.
Yes.
I was interested in it being a Jedi whose story is kind of open-ended, right? So they are bringing something to the moment, but they're not eclipsing Grogu's moment. If it was, for me, if it was Bear Safi, I'd be like, well, this is great, but I'm now mostly thinking about, did she change her mind about the Jedi? Did she break out? Did she, like, what is she doing there? You know what I mean? So Quinlan Voss, I just always wanted a little bit more time with, but then once we found out, like, at least he was a part of the path we learned in the Kenobi show, so he made sense as somebody who would rescue a youngling. When we saw the corpse of Tera Sinube in Kenobi, I was like, he trains younglings. Hey, if they can get a dark crystal looking puppet of Tera Sinube,
that'd be great
to waddle around, whip out a cane saber, and rescue Grogu. That would be great. But then in that list also, was Kelleran, because the character has weight. Jedi Temple Challenge is canon adjacent at best, but he has weight because he's a teacher. He's someone who cares for younglings and would say, hey, my role isn't to go out in the front lines and stop Anakin Skywalker. Or my role isn't to run down and protect the archives, right? My role is to go for the kids and go for the most vulnerable kids. Who needs me? That's who I am. That's my role. And I heard right away, get Kelleran. And I had, one of those, did I hear that right? Are they doing that? And then it was just like, it was so perfect. And to see him with that hero shot, right? That is celebratory of Ahmed Best, certainly. But also so immersed in the lore of the Mandalorian, of when you are a child in danger and you look up, what do you see? Do you see death or do you see salvation? And the fact that we're kind of seeing him from Grogu's perspective, the same way Grogu would have saw Din and IG-11 floating over him, and one was death and the other was salvation. And to see, Kelleran in that role of, I look up and I am saved, was really, really powerful. And for me, I was thrilled for Ahmed Best, but I was just as moved by the ideas that were so in sync with the rest of this episode about who Kelleran Beck is and what Grogu must have felt to look up and see him, and in the power of saying, get him to Kelleran. Like, I want a whole Star Wars story that's called Get Him to Kelleran. You'll be safe if you can get him to Kelleran,
Yeah, it reminds me, and I always want to be careful to highlight that, speculation and predictions and all this stuff. We say it over and over again. It's a caveat that I think bears repeating, because it's like it's part of the fun, and we do it too. And having this list and Kellen possibly being a name on a list. And I saw some other tweets of people that said this as well. This is his return for Jedi Temple Challenge was celebrated by many. It's all part of the fun, but it reminds me of when these creators are firing on all cylinders, and you just kind of see what they're trying to put out there and connect with what the show is telling you. It isn't an Easter egg hunt. It isn't a connect the dots. It isn't fixing anything, because that's not the purpose of this. It is Luke shows up because Luke needs to show up. Kelleran Beck shows up because it's a damn good choice of what was going on in the Jedi Temple at this time, what was going on in the Order, and who would be around to do exactly what you say. Preserve the Order, preserve the future, and save the children. Everything's going to be all right, kid. It's such a powerful choice.
Yeah. And how can we give it meaning and make it fun and surprising without it being a distraction, because it's kind of about something else? And at least maybe for me, maybe for some people it was, because it's so much about Ahmed Best.
Sure, it's definitely bigger than the scene. We're going to get to that. But no, I'm with you on that. There's a lot of people who didn't know, right?
Yeah. Like for me, I think I've said many times on this podcast, like it'd be fine if it's Poofle Dinger that we've never heard of,
Little Poofle, yeah.
Poofle Ding, one of the great Jedi. Like, but I think it did feel like we want some pop there. In this, provided it in a great way. Let's talk about the Ahmed Best of it. I feel like you've got a powerful wave of thought and emotion waiting to be unleashed. So unleash yourself.
It's not done with any anger. It's not done with any tisk-tiskin. I do believe, we all know his journey, and maybe, all the details. He hasn't revealed all the details, and he's got that show he's either been working on or put out that I can't wait to see. I can't remember what the status of that one-man show that was being worked on. I just love where we're at. And in short, like I think I've touched on this before, but like I had pitched working on a project idea called Forgiving Jar Jar, and then I changed the title because like Jar Jar doesn't need our forgiveness. We do. He's an audience do. We as maybe our particular generation, not as individuals, but in a general sense of what Ahmed went through, of what Jake Lloyd went through, which we know is a big part of that as well. So it's not a I don't want to, however you out there, however you just want to look at it, I don't want to personally look at it as some sort of just simply redemption for Jar Jar. I was even talking with our buddy Ken about this. Like it's maybe it's our redemption arc as an audience. That's something that's pretty powerful. I even saw our buddy Ken tweet that out this morning too, but it's on my mind of just like, he didn't do that to himself. We did that to him as a person. Got him to the point where he was ready to jump. Ready to change in his life. That's serious stuff, and all because of a character that we failed to engage with. Not we, you and I, but just general. That we failed to engage with. That we failed to see the perspective of other fans connecting to Jar Jar, of why they needed it. It's why the Chuck Wendig aftermath epilogue is so powerful to me. Of the only people left around Jar Jar were the children. So once again, you have Ahmed playing a character who is there for the children. That's very meta and very powerful. So I don't mean this at all in a tisk. I just like it's just a lesson in how we engage with this stuff and how we choose to talk about this stuff. I'm not saying everyone needs to love Jar Jar, but how you choose to discuss even your your lack of satisfaction, your lack of love for that character, even how you choose to talk about that is important, and what we're here for, because it leads to it's harmful if done wrong. It's harmful if you're careless with it. And it was harmful, potentially fatally to Ahmed Best. So for here, it's not just simply like, congratulations, you're back. I always say this, a lot of times, like, we sometimes celebrate the barrier breakers in sports, but we never go back and question whether barriers were there. And Jackie Robinson deserves everything. But don't forget the barriers were there for him to break in baseball, and analyze it all and celebrate it all. But this is a very big celebratory moment for me. I had tears in my eyes because Jedi Temple Challenge was amazing. We celebrated that every week. You and I loved seeing him there. But to get to we're going to get a figure of all this kind of stuff that could happen of it. It's just it's an important moment. But I choose to look at it as a just as valuable lesson for us as it is a celebration for Ahmed.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a rant, Joseph. I just it was on my heart.
It's not a rant. It is sharing your opinion, your perspective, and your life experience. I think the thing for me is, I had our friend Ken Plume texted me his tweet to make sure as we're recording that I saw his.
Ken lives on the East Coast, but he has vampire hours, so he was texting me at like 3 a.m. his time. Love you, Ken.
Yeah, I just saw people celebrating last night, and
yes,
and I tapped out, and I didn't realize that this morning maybe there is a nuanced discussion happening of is this redemption, and I understand being frustrated with the perspective of like, Jar Jar was awful, so now Ahmed Best has redeemed himself. If that is a sentiment that's being shared, I really disagree with that perspective. For me, it is about cynicism and anger causing trauma and overcoming that trauma and not having joy taken from you. And I think that journey of Jar Jar, what Jar Jar actually symbolizes in the Phantom Menace of innocence and kindness and the possibility of connection and bravery and all these things that you can kind of look at is, cynically, you can look at as sappy or just for kids. And that's often what is brave about them, right? We're going to express these things and say these things that are easy to dismiss and go, that's kiddie crap. That's kiddie belief, oh, innocence working together, being brave and pushing past your fear. Great. Thanks for the little cookie cutter life wisdom. It's easy to be cynical about them. It takes bravery to go, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to say hope matters. Right. And I know people are going to throw slings and arrows at me. So there's that. That's what Jar Jar symbolizes in a lot of ways. Right.
Yeah.
Then there is the truth of what happened when that film came out. I was of the generation that I loved Maul. I loved Obi-Wan. I loved Sidious being evil and kind of funny at the same time. One of my favorite lines has always been, "I will make it legal." But Jar Jar was too silly. I didn't need to see somebody step in poopy and make a joke about it and all that. And Piusa and all of it, right? The quote in Wayne's World with "Excuse me."
Yeah. Greatest hits, yeah.
But I wasn't interacting with what the film was actually saying and in engaging with it in going, well, what is actually being said with the character? Do I agree with it? How can I process it? I wasn't doing that. And B, I wasn't making room for the fact that, this is for people of all ages. And maybe that's the very first time that a child has ever seen some of these great classic comedy bits of the lovable, innocent, bumbling fool, the person that everybody is hard on because they don't quite, fit in yet. They're awkward and gangly and they're trying to figure out their way, and they've got nothing but love in their heart, but they're always in the way. I didn't make room for the perspective of seeing that for the first time. And even if a new Star Wars movie came out and it had a character like Jar Jar who was stepping in the poopy, I'd be like, for me right now, that's not my favorite, right? I don't need that.
Yep.
But then I have the choice of how I react to it. And I think that's what you're talking about, and that's what's vital to the way we are interacting with media right now. I would have no problem saying, those comedy beats didn't work for me. They're clearly, for a younger age. They're clearly for this idea. They're not for me. Or I could turn this piece of art, this character, this storytelling, the human behind it, into a punching bag to pour all of my anger and frustration in and go beyond criticism, go beyond joking to just hitting something. It's safe because it's a movie. It's Star Wars. It's George Lucas. He's a billionaire. What, am I going to hurt him by making fun of his movie? Like, maybe. We certainly hurt the person behind it. And that's the important distinction to me, is not, did you like it? Does it work for you? Those things are fine discussions. Poke a little good-natured fun at it. Fine. But I think so much of our discussion tips beyond those things. Legitimate criticism, good-natured poking fun, into, you are angry, as so many of us are, and so many of us have a reason to be, and you're pouring it into a piece of art. And I think that's what happened to Jar Jar. I think that's what happened to Ahmed Best. And the triumph is, this man endured all that and survived. And instead of saying, Star Wars was something I loved, I poured my heart into it, and I got acid back, I'm never going to touch that again. Right. Instead of saying that, he says, you're not going to take this from me. I'm going to come back and I'm going to be a part of this, and I'm going to celebrate it, and I'm going to relish it. And hey, you know what? I started as, a dancer, a gymnast, an incredibly well-trained performer of incredibly difficult spectacle. And and that's with the skills that allowed him to create Jar Jar. a revolutionary breakthrough. And here he is back using those skills as well in having this different lightsaber fighting style, which I thought was really awesome.
Oh, yeah.
And made it different and distinct. And it's his skills as a performer honed over decades that are making that different and cool. You know, he's not just another one of the Padawans, you know, in our many now Order 66 scenes. It's something stylish and distinctive because that's who he is as a performer.
Yeah, no, well said. Yeah, and I never, I hope, I don't want to take anyone's joy away of how they celebrated it. I want to celebrate his return to Star Wars both in 2019 and now in this major way. And I just want to also stop and reflect on why he was away and why he at times maybe chose to be away, right? That's all part of the picture, but it all leads to this I got to tell you, one of my favorite scenes in Star Wars in a long time. It'll stay up there high in the rankings for a long time. I love this scene.
Yeah, it was great. It was really, really great. And I think it leads us to some of our other canon discussion.
Oh, there's more?
Yeah. Well, there's fun of like, oh, he's the sabered hand. That's his nickname. But he was using Jarkai, the two lightsaber technique. Awesome. But then the don't worry, going to meet up with some friends of mine. Like we just got sort of rewarded with the who is going to rescue Grogu. It's this fascinating choice in the galaxy with our own cultural relationship with Star Wars. And then it's the fact that it was, you know, Naboo Royal Guards in an H-type Nubian yacht. Padme flies a lot of ships in the prequels. I believe that one is the H-type Nubian yacht. The only way it could have been more a celebration of the prequels is if we saw Keller and Beck hit the same button that starts the ship and the communicator.
Yes.
Where did your mind go with either in universe or in terms of what it means in the Star Wars galaxy or our own relationship to the prequels? That the Naboo and that ship was the salvation.
At the very least, it's an amazing, impressive, and respectful reference and call out, right? It's meta in its own way. It's Jar Jar Binks, a son of Naboo, if you want to look at it that way, flying a ship there, and where he goes from here, you know, to me, almost it does matter, but like, oh, that could have been the end of the journey. Like, what a fun reference! The Naboo Royal Guard there, the ship, Nubian, yeah. That alone was quite frankly enough. But what you just also described too is it's like you get a Christmas gift and you open up that gift and it's like half of the gift, and your parents are like, and the other half is in this box, and you're like, oh. So I had the elevator doors open. It's Kelleran, and then he's like, we go into some of my friends. I'm like, I just got another gift. And, you know, there's a lot of options. I want to hear your thoughts on that. I'm 2% joking, I guess. I'll even 2% joking that it could be Representative Binks. It would maybe be, I don't know if it'd be too much. I'd love it. I'd cry tears of joy and want to go back and correct my attitude in 1999. But it all could make sense. And it's all big and fun.
Yeah, I mean, you're right that is one of the implications, that like Jar Jar sees what's going on, and he's got a friendship with Kelleran.
Yes, and it could be, you know, it could be an Ada Padme, it could be Sabe, it could be all that. You know, Padme's got some stuff going on at this moment.
Kelleran could have been on Naboo and have a strong bond to Queen Apolna. You know.
Mm-hmm.
But it could be Representative Binks. Yeah, I think for me, where my mind went, just in times of great darkness, there in storytelling, I'm always excited to see the people who are making the right choices and our heroes. Right? You know, it's the feeling of the triumphant Star Wars theme when, you know, a hero from Alderaan arises because they're on the right side, right? You know, but for me, at times in The Mandalorian, when the New Republic shows up, right, they're the heroes. I know that is getting complicated, but for me, when those X-Wings show up, the New Republic's here. So to just kind of see Naboo and powerful figures on Naboo being like, yeah, this isn't right, and we got your back. You know, we'll help you get the kids out. It just it slots the Naboo into, in general as a culture, into this heroic pantheon. They're like the people of Alderaan, the people of Naboo they're the people you go to who are on the right path, except for Palpatine.
Except for Palpatine. Makes his choices even that much more bad and evil. I love that. That's great. And again, going back to some of the meta side, you and I have mentioned before that panel 2019 Chicago Favreau. I don't know. I'm not much of a fan of the prequels, but Dave's working on me to this moment.
Right. And imagine going back to 1999 and going, you know what? In quite a few years, Action Jackson is going to direct Jar Jar Binks as an awesome Jedi.
In a show produced by the guy who just gave you Swingers. What?
Life takes you surprising places.
Life.
Some other just smaller canon things. It's great to see fresh dialogue from Demuera Morrison as the clones. That was awesome.
Yeah, absolutely.
Confirmed in the credits. I guess if you're going to build the assets for Monument Plaza in the mountain Umat,
keep them.
Umate, yep, you're going to keep them coming. Love that. There's a couple in dialogue of Bo-Katan and the armor, a couple of super deep cuts, from my perspective, because they're legends, about Mandalorian stuff. When Bo-Katan is talking about climbing the nest of the raptor, she says it's like the Qumrat hills that she climbed. That's from the Star Wars Legends books, Republic Commando True Colors, by Karen Travis. And in Legends, that was a Mandalorian stronghold where runaway clones who didn't like the Clone War were welcome at that place. So that's cool. Mm-hmm. The armor instructs Bo-Katan to take the Shriek Hawk training team with her on the rescue mission. The Shriek Hawk is a predator bird on Mandalore. The symbol of Clan Vizsla and sometimes symbol of Death Watch is an image of the Shriek Hawk. That's sort of a 3 claw marks kind of all together. That image is on the shoulders of the Mandalorians who rescued young Din Djarin. So that was a fun little, you run it down. I guess that's one other thing to jump back quickly to Keller and Beck. Favreau has said again and again in a recent slate of interviews of, we want to celebrate all Star Wars fans. So we want to pull from lots of different places. We really want to recognize lots of people love Star Wars from lots of different places. So been a lot of little Legends references. And I feel like Keller and Beck is a part of that too. There's obviously the history of Ahmed Best himself, but also like it was a game show for kids that ran for one summer. But did you like that? Are you like 10 now and you saw that when you were 7 and that was your first Star Wars? You're welcome too.
I'm so glad you mentioned that. I'm just double confirming that it aired. Okay, so the air date was 2020. I said 2019 earlier. I apologize. So air date was June 2020. You're like you said, you're already 10. You were 9. You're now 12. That's first of all, that seems like decades when you're that age, and now you're like that guy for that game show. Oh my God, he's in Mando,
and he played another character in Star Wars.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. And I have such fond memories of Jedi Temple Challenge because it was in 2020. It was like here in the summer of 2020. It's like a nice thing. What's this about?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So the other bit of canon I wrote down was really affected by is the number of concrete rules of the creed, the way that gets spat out in this episode. It's one of the things that made me love it and feel like, okay, now we're in it. Because it isn't just Din repeating this is the way. It's a sharing of specific rules from huge and emotional to kind of pedantic. Made a quick list of them, then we can talk about whatever we want. The idea that the protecting foundlings is the highest, most important thing in the creed, period. Then we get the kind of straightforward that foundlings must rise to the level of apprentice. Another sort of thing that invites comparison to the Jedi. Din's official title in terms of his relationship to Grogu within the covert is Ward. He says, I'm his ward. We learn what might be vital information, that Grogu is too young to speak the creed and so too young to wear a helmet. That's great. This kind of important back and forth that is clearly a saying. Maybe it's a part of the creed. One does not speak unless one knows.
Yes.
this we already saw Din do, and the armor responded, "This is the way." But the armor makes it clear it is a tradition in our culture for each to donate a small portion of what they earn to the Foundlings. And then I would say to the downright pedantic, when Paz Vizsla says, "You are the leader of the war party. You have the honor of staying by the fire." It's a great moment, a beautiful moment, an important moment for Bo-Katan. But it also made me feel like, when he says, "This is the way," like, how long are the bylaws? Like, this isn't just what you recite when you walk into the water. Like, and now that you've passed that, here is our 487 rules that deal with everything down to how do we dine while on a hunting party. Yeah. And you got to memorize them. So go anywhere you want with any of those.
Here's where I'll go to Wedding Crashers and Zombieland, 2 movies that just suddenly throw random rule numbers up. Rule number 17. I love this. You can go a lot of ways. I thought there was a lot to take from Paz Vizsla, both the negative, kind of what you were talking about earlier, of, well, you lost, don't speak unless no one, unless you know. It varies, not unlike The Rock and wrestling saying, know your role. So it can be good and bad, how it's delivered, I guess. But I like that. I like all of it. But yeah, it's when you lay it all down on paper, it is that delicate balance, and I think you and I've talked about it here, and it's up for being analyzed. It is both what keeps you going, it protects you, it's your survival. We've seen that with the watch so far, and then it's also maybe what keeps you there. They keep getting away. This always happens. These birds kill our kids. What are we gonna do? Change? No. This is the way. Like it's fascinating to see it laid out, like you're saying, and I love it. My favorite one is the I didn't even write it down, but don't speak unless you know is an interesting idea. I can explore, maybe get behind parts of it.
Yeah, I love that one. One does not speak unless one knows, because it played with our perception, right? Because we get Ragnar, and I think the acting performance is great. I'm not criticizing the child or Carl Weathers' direction, but a little smug, right? Of like, oh, you're gonna make me fight against. It's very Luke meeting Yoda, right? Of like, he's too young and you can barely get the thing on his wrist. Well, and so we have this strong response to him. It's like, oh, you don't know. You don't know what we know. So, it's, I'm sure for a lot of us can have a reaction to one does not speak unless one knows, of wanting to say that to people who don't see our true value or think they're right about something, but they don't have the whole picture. So there's that sort of positive side of like, don't judge things by their appearance. Don't come into somebody's, Twitter feed, saying, well, why are you telling me this thing about rocket scientist? And then a woman having to respond like, because I'm a rocket scientist. Do not tweet unless one knows. Like, there's that part of it that's kind of fist pumping. But then I was thinking about this line when Bo-Katan couldn't get the guidance in the conversation she needed from the armor, right? She doesn't know. So she's asking, right? And there's a little bit of this like, you don't have the answer, so why are you talking about this?
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
And one does not speak unless one knows. It's great for somebody who is being hubris, having some hubris, being cocky, right? Yeah. It's a terrible thing to tell a child, right? I think there's enough in our culture, and I think, where we fear asking a question because somebody will take an advantage of it to make fun of us, right?
Totally.
Or to any number of, that's a vulnerability. Don't ask a question. It's so great to ask questions, because how else are you going to know, right? Yeah. And I long for all of us to extend that trust that you can see me as a valued, knowledgeable person, and I can ask you about something I don't know about, and you won't talk down to me like a child. You'll just share the information with me and not use it as a tool to demean me. So there's a lot of sides to me to the one does not speak unless one knows.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with you. Like I said, I think on the aggressive side of it, I get it. It is a cool line. I want to tweet that out too. But I think you're sorry to the end result is the child alone on a beach, vulnerable.
Yep. yeah. Anyway, we could talk about that one forever, but I think it's a great example of the complexity of the Children of the Watch. All right, we're going to move on from canon unless you have anything else.
No, go for it.
Okay, let's talk some action moments. There's some fun action in this. Did you have some fist pumping moments?
Duel by paint dart was pretty funny and cool. I enjoyed it. Also adorable. That little paint dart, the training dart wristband was great. And it's been fascinating. You know, they're Grogu's moving a lot more, right? Both walking, shuffling along, leaping into Pelly's arms, and now this. And it absolutely makes me think of Attack of the Clones, and I love seeing it.
Yeah, I applauded and hooted loudly for Grogu's flip and triple shot. Just from the you don't know what you're dealing with, and wondering like, is he going to force push him or what? But no, that seems to be Grogu's favorite force move is flipping, which we saw him learn from Luke, and it's kind of acknowledged. Did he learn that from you? Not from me.
Not from me.
And then just the sort of the deadpan of it, and boom, 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 3 in the chest. I loved it. My absolute favorite action moments. What were some other moments for you?
I do want the sabered hand, man. You're so right. There's one of my favorite Kelleran moments is he's there to help. Everything's going to be all right, kid. He's made this promise. He's got this goal that Grogu right now is the only one. There was others that he was trying to save, and to have the clones and make that in that moment. Make that decision. It makes me think of some of Luke's lessons on Pilio to Del Mico of, they didn't give me a choice. And they made the decision, talking about the clones. And yes, I know about the chip and all that kind of stuff. But I'm talking about it in this moment. I love when he turns around and he's got that look at his face. That look is action. And he's double blading. That's the figure I want. Shocker, that's going to be the figure you and I need after this episode. But double blading Kelleran, give me that now. It was an amazing little moment.
Yeah, and I know there's a discussion to be had because Kelleran, his lightsaber was going to be purple, but I'm sure there'll be many interviews and think pieces. But I love that his lightsaber fighting style was different. It had this kind of big sweeping energy. A lot of the sort of final moves were these like very either horizontal, in rhythm with the ground or in direct sort of 90-degree angles. I really liked that. It just had kind of like a different style. So it really made him feel like this is somebody who's studied a specific style. Also, I got my favorite thing, Ken. I got somebody falling from a high place.
You did. Yes.
That big force push from a high place. I understand why the majority of the Order 66 imagery you see is the Jedi in desperate defense. The clone know their weakness, know the angles to attack them with overwhelming shots that they can't, defend against. So it's totally understandable that the majority of images we see from Order 66 are Jedi just desperately blocking, right? So it's fun to see a moment of, nope, force push, bye-bye.
Yeah, no, absolutely. You can almost hear that sound the battle droid makes when Qui-Gon force pushes in Phantom Menace. One of my favorites.
Yeah. Why? It was great to see Republic gunships, but sad to see them just blasting the side of buildings. That was great.
Yeah, that train, man. What happened to that train? I mean, Kelleran's got to do what Kelleran's got to do, but collide into that train or whatever. Yeah,
I think a droid conductor probably met their end. Yeah, my headcanon. I like seeing the V-Wings chase the Naboo yacht, and it's been something that I've been noticing a lot in Bad Batch. I really like how the V-Wings are sort of used as the early, Empire that has it technically probably hasn't even started yet here. But they're the TIE fighters before TIE fighters. They got that same sort of vicious noise and movement, and they've been using the V-Wings to great effect as proto-TIE fighters emotionally in Bad Batch, and I thought they did here too.
I love some of the choices there. Some of the cuts, the push-ins remind me of Battle Geonosis footage with the those quick kind of push-ins on the land ships. Yeah.
Moving on to the big Raptor adventure. Was the Raptor baby reveal? Was that one of your favorite action moments?
Well, yeah, it was, but I'm glad the episode just hit me where I needed it. Like Carl Weathers tweets, "Be peace." Those baby Raptors, nothing was their fault. So the fact that that's the first thought I had from the moment I was like, put the babies. And I love the ending there. But that whole sequence had it was great tension. I put in a note myself. It had a lot of Saturday morning Land of the Lost vibe stuff going on. And I really like that. And there's a specific moment where poor Paz is in the mouth. There's that, it's kind of a wide shot, and his desperate flame attack. I just kind of like that little moment.
Oh yeah, no, I really like that. Of like once he was in the raptor's mouth.
Yeah.
Like, I'm trying to get this down your gullet, it's not working. Yeah, the baby reveal was great. I didn't really see it coming. But I think my favorite thing in that sequence was the fact that the adult space raptor had to spit up Ragnar, was keeping Ragnar in their throat or in some sack. I've been thinking so much about like pulp and adventure serial and the power of it being that it's wonderful and terrifying at the same time. That when we see fantasy images that strike us, it's because it's like this sort of wonder of a world that we could never see, that isn't quite real, or the absolute terror of something that we don't want to be real. It invokes in nightmares, right? In the idea of that, you think that's the raptor's going to breathe fire, spit acid, and spit up Ragnar was just shocking and disgusting. And then about to do the baby bird feed of like, you just watch. I'm going to feed your baby to my babies. Terrifying.
Love that. Great stuff.
Yeah, and then I love the big raptor wing slap to Bo-Katan. That was great. Great for us to see so clearly her losing her armor. And I like the continuing, like, hey, it is the Mandalorian. Din is really good. And I like that Din, did the wing binding shot and got the kid.
Yeah, lest we forget, Din is good.
Yeah. Any other action moments for you?
No, pretty much sums it up there. Just double blading Kelleran. That's where my heart was.
Double blading Kelleran. All right, let's talk moments of comedy, whimsy. What jumped out to you for wonderful, warm moments? Yeah, you got to go back to the darts there. Just the fact that Bo-Katan's got to strap on these little darts. It's too adorable. It's too much to take. And I was even thinking some of the, just squeeze your wrist. Like, well, what does it sense the muscles? Like, how does it actually work? But you don't need to worry about that. And then I love the little aside of like Bo-Katan standing there very straight up, straight posture, just kind of, he doesn't know how to fire darts, as if like, when did you had that opportunity? Right. Like I've had that sometimes, and not to wagging fingers at Bo-Katan, but just like, like I was taught to change my oil in my car. I don't do it, but other people be like, what? You don't know how to completely redo your engine? Like, why would I know to do that? Would you like to know how to produce a podcast? Do you know how to do that?
Exactly. Can you do a 7-minute set? Go get up on stage. Do it now.
Yep. We all have different skills. Yeah. Man, everything. And Grogu's, do I really have to do this, Daddy?
Yes.
Don't look at me. Don't look at him. Don't look at me. Look at him. All that stuff was great. The one does not speak unless one knows was great and powerful and interesting. But Ragnar's, I know. And the line that really got me is Din's, perhaps this lesson is for you then.
Yes.
Absolutely great. We talked about the sort of Grogu energy in the flashback, right? And I loved the energy of Grogu's pod opening after Kelleran's speeder crash.
Right.
And it did seem like a younger Grogu. It seemed more like early in Mandalorian Grogu. They kind of popped out with it. I'm fine. Yeah. Sort of comic energy that really did attach his journey, his relationship with Kelleran to his relationship with Din.
Absolutely. I love a lot of little moments. Sort of, there's a little smile, the controlling it, because we made such a big deal of him actually kind of driving around his pod this time, but the fact that he knows that button, he knew that button. I love that.
Yeah. I think my final moment, without just going on and on of every beat of the dart competition, I love when they return having successfully rescued Ragnar, that the Mandalorian applause, this is the way to applaud, is clanking their vambraces together.
Yes. Yeah, I love that.
So great. Just a personal thing for me, like when I do shows, particularly when I do a show that I'm on the show with other people, I really like having a beer. And so there have been times where, like, I don't have hands free to applaud, so I will personally applaud by clinking my wedding ring on my beer glass.
Love it.
So I was like, oh, the Mandalorians, they're just like me.
That is the way.
This is the way. Is there anything that we haven't talked about that you wanted to touch on?
I think we hit on a lot of spots, and I'm just going to reiterate. I hope no one thinks I'm policing how you're celebrating Ahmed coming back. I just think it's something that's been a long time coming. And again, going back to Jedi Temple Challenge, I keep thinking 2019 at the Chicago panel is why I think that year's in my brain as well. And, it's just wonderful to have him here. I choose to not say necessarily back. He's here, and that's what's important to me.
Yeah, no, I really agree with you. I think it is a positive thing that he is, finding joy in Star Wars and being a part of the community and a part of the world is just it's a triumph.
Yeah.
One thing for me is you had mentioned it, and I hadn't really been paying attention and following up on it, that Tate Fletcher, who has always been the physical body actor for Paz Vizsla, has taken over the voice role from Jon Favreau. And I don't know if that's just John being like, I don't I don't need to be in the voice booth too. Or is I've seen some speculation when I looked into it that there's a possibility of we want to be ready for a helmet removal. How do you feel about that? Do you feel like that's fun speculation? Do you think that's wild speculation? Do you think Johnny Favs is just like, I'm wearing enough hats?
Yeah, look, I'm going to go cook a Cubano. You guys handle the voice stuff. No, I actually, that's I hadn't thought about that if you're leading to that and if it's the same performer and he's doing a great job, you couldn't tell the difference, but he's hitting it. It's really good. It's
great.
Yeah. Doesn't take me out. I think it was just fun to have John doing it because of pre-Vizsla, but also, he sounded like Rio Durant a lot. So, now it's a little different and I like it more, but to lead to that, that's interesting speculation. I like that.
Yeah. You have him start talking about a Minoc roast would have been awkward. Are you thinking of any predictions or hopes for next week or the shape of season 3 now that we're halfway through?
I mean, there's a little beats here and there that we know from trailers. But here's what I love about the season. We keep saying it, I think, at the end of these episodes, or all through these reviews so far with Mandalorian Report season 3 of I went in thinking, this is probably a season of him going to get to Mandalore. And oh, look at that. We need IGA-11's memory. So that's quest 1. And no mistake to think that, because look at season 1 and 2. It has broken that mold a bit. There's still a lot of ventures every week, obviously. I absolutely look at Bo-Katan as a kind of a co-lead this season in a way. And not mean that disrespect to Din Djarin as a character. So I'm confused. I know we probably need to go back to Navarro, and there's probably some stuff there. And yes, there's some giant questions about Pershing, Moff Gideon, and all those things. And I think in time, but we only have 4 episodes, in time it will be revealed. So I do think I'm focusing on the next step in Grogu's journey through his memories, and if we'll see it and how soon we'll see it. I'm excited by the possibility, yes, of Jar Jar Binks, of Sabe, of anyone for Rick Ollier could have been on that ship. We've got to escape. This ship will get us away. Could have been anything, but I'm just excited to see that the mystery is not done. It's an ongoing story.
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. I feel like if anybody hasn't watched the trailers and memorized them and want to tap out for 60 seconds, totally understand. One of the, I think, few remaining big scenes is we know Mandos are going to Navarro, so it's really interesting to think about why is that in defense, because there's an attack from the pirates. Is this Din saying, I got a request from help from my old pal Grief, and I got the Darksaber, so you're going? And they're like, this is the way. Is it Gideon? Gideon we know is in the season allegedly. And we've got Bo-Katan's relationship with the Mythosaur. We've got, is it going to be Bo-Katan on the Mythosaur and a bunch of other Mandos on Raptors? Yeah. Is it going to be Bo-Katan and Din riding the Mythosaur together? There's so much going on and so much that it's leading to. And I think the question that I keep having is, how far into the story is this season going to go? Is this season going to be this covert versus Moff Gideon? You know, is this going to end with them retaking Mandalore? You know, the themes and the conflicts and the characters, the chess pieces on the board are clear, but kind of like where we're building to in terms of where this season ends versus the continuing story is really unclear to me. And I know a lot of people are on Thrawn watch.
Sure.
We'll see. But yeah, I think for me, for this season, the thing that I'm now the most intrigued by and curious about is, I could absolutely be wrong, but it does feel like that was Grogu trauma processing part 1. So I'm obviously thrilled to see part 2. I'm also really intrigued to see what is going to trigger the memory of part 2.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah. So lots of things to be excited for. We already know the majority of the answer to our final fun question, which is what action figure or merch do we want inspired by this episode? Ken, if you could say it and make it so, what scale, what kind of Keller and Beck sabered hand with 2 lightsabers action figure do you want?
We need multiple sets. So a 6-inch Black Series, because there have been some fan customs out there. 6-inch Black Series Keller and Beck. We need that. We need a 3 3/4. We absolutely need that. And then we need the 3 3/4 battle pack of him on that speeder with Grogu in the pram. And then you need a Funko Pop series about that too. You need it all. You need it all.
From Black Series to vintage to retro. I'll tell you what, if things continue the way they are, any character who shares a scene with Grogu has a chance at getting an expensive double pack action figure.
That's the key.
They just announced the very expensive but the great looking Luke Skywalker Jedi Master training with the sack that you can put Grogu in, Black Series. I think that's coming for the vintage line too. So Keller and Beck, what a move. What a great move to save the child and get yourself an action figure for sure, at least in a double pack with Grogu. If I could pick one other action figure from this episode, this is what I want, Ken. I want a Mando kid tournament judge.
Oh, yeah, that's okay.
There are a lot. It's been really fun to look at all the different art of the Mandalorians, and I'm with you. I like the Mandalorians. I love the look of them. They're so aesthetically cool, but I'm really engaged when we dive into the meaning of them. But it's also just been fun to look at all the different designs. And I love this one of he had the kind of rough dark green cape pushed to the side, the bright orange helmet. Like, you look like a kitchen from the 70s and yet still cool. I want an action figure of you.
He does. Yeah. The 70s vibe is strong. All these, you just hit upon it. All these Mandos here on the beach, they remind me of different shades and shapes of Tupperware at Tupperware party.
Yeah. And their Tupperware cannot be burped. Have you ever burped your Tupperware? Have you ever allowed someone else to burp your Tupperware? This is the way.
That's amazing. And yes, I know probably every generation understands Tupperware, but there might be younger generations that don't understand Tupperware parties.
Oh, it was everywhere. All right. That is our big look at this, in my opinion, great episode of The Mandalorian. Lots of different angles and elements to explore. So thank you for sticking with us on a long episode. Ken, where can people find us?
Hey, we are Force Center. We are on Twitter at Force Center Pod, Hive Social as well as Force Center. Instagram is Force Center Pod. On Facebook at Force Center Podcast. Don't forget, if you would love to consider maybe heading on over to our YouTube channel, subscribe over there, hit the notification bell. We got cool things like videos, shorts, live Q&As, more things coming. So head over there. If you want some merch, you can go to tpublic.com/user/forcecenter. You just like listening to the podcast, man. We love that. You can find us in a lot of spots. So if this spot doesn't work for you, just search. You'll find us. Stitcher, TuneIn, Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts. They're all there. You can support us directly at patreon.com/forcecenter. Find me at Cat Napzok or go to my website, catnapzok.com. I have a podcast called The Blathering. If you want to actually hear me get kind of angry about how we talk about movie news and why it affects the world, go check out this week's episode. You can get the link at catnapzok.com. Joseph, where can they find you?
Yeah, you can find me on all the social media, Twitter, Instagram in particular. I am trying to spend a little bit more time over there, also on Mastodon. So come find me in those places. You can also check out my YouTube channel for some comedy, some short films. The not unboxing videos live there, as well as TikTok. So come find me on YouTube just by searching for Joseph Scrimshaw. One final thing, I want to point out that there is an important election happening for the Wisconsin Supreme Court. It has a lot of stakes, obviously, for Wisconsin, but potentially beyond. So if you're interested in learning more about that and maybe want to write some letters to encourage people not to vote in any particular way, but simply to vote, to use their power, there's a great service called Vote Forward. I'm going to be writing some letters, and if you're interested in checking that out, you can read all about it at Vote Forward, website votefwd.org. That is it for myself, for Ken, for both lightsabers of Keller and Beck. This has been the Mandalorian Report.